Have you ever felt completely crushed by minor criticism, even if it came from someone you don't really care about? Or maybe you overthink social interactions all the time and you're constantly worried about what people think of you or saying the wrong thing or being embarrassed. Well, if you're a neurospicy individual like myself, you might be suffering from something called rejection sensitive dysphoria, otherwise known as RSD. Hey, I'm Tash. I'm a registered nurse with a neurodivergent brain. I created this YouTube channel to talk openly and honestly about mental health and to raise awareness in neurodiversity. Hello. So, what is rejection sensitive dysphoria? Well, RSD is essentially an intense emotional reaction to feedback, criticism, disapproval, whether it be actual or perceived. People who experience RSD often describe it as emotional sunburn, so even the tiniest little touch can cause immense pain. And because of this overwhelming, unbearable, intense pain that rejection and negative comments cause, people who suffer from RSD tend to become perfectionists to prevent making mistakes and to prevent receiving negative criticism, to stop people from thinking bad things about you, essentially. Because in your head, you think that people think of you the same way you do, in a sense where you're so overly critical of who you are, you assume that other people are the same. And that doesn't help when you have a trauma background, when you have people from childhood or your entire life sort of criticizing you. That makes it way worse. So yeah, people with RSD tend to become perfectionists to avoid the feeling of rejection and that intense, disgusting fear and the feeling of feeling like you're going to die. Because that's exactly what happens. People with RSD, they feel rejection on a different level. They feel as if their life is being threatened and as if they're in actual danger. And why this happens is your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and your body is essentially responding physiologically the same way it would if you were in actual danger, if your life was being threatened. And this kicks in when you have RSD and you feel rejected, or there's some disapproval towards you, or something that makes you feel like you're doing something wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, nobody likes the feeling of being rejected. Nobody likes getting negative feedback. It's quite annoying, actually, and even if it's constructive feedback, everybody experiences that little pang. But it's a matter of degree. It's the level of intensity a person feels when they're being rejected or being told something negative. What separates RSD from just the feeling, the negative, icky feeling of being rejected is, first off, the intensity of emotional response. So with RSD, the emotional reaction is disproportionately intense compared to the situation. So it can feel like an overwhelming wave of shame, sadness, anger, or anxiety, and it comes out of nowhere. And the universal discomfort of rejection typically causes a feeling of disappointment, sadness, or hurt, but that's proportionate to the situation. So it's unpleasant, but it doesn't usually derail your whole day or lead to extreme emotional distress. There's also the duration of reaction that's different. The emotional impact of rejection in RSD can linger for a long time, sometimes days or even weeks. It can be difficult to let go of the feeling of being rejected or criticized, leading to rumination and negative self-talk. The universal discomfort usually fades relatively quickly, and you might feel sad or disappointed for a while, but you're generally able to move on and not let it define you. Another big difference is the impact on self-worth. Rejection can trigger deep feelings of shame, worthlessness, and inadequacy. It can reinforce negative beliefs about oneself and lead to a fear of future rejection. The universal discomfort. While rejection can sting, it doesn't usually cause a major blow to your self-esteem. You might feel momentarily discouraged, but you don't fundamentally question your worth as a person. Behavioral responses. RSD can lead to avoidance behaviours, such as withdrawing from social situations, people-pleasing, or difficulty asserting needs. It can lead to emotional outbursts or difficulty regulating anger. The universal discomfort of rejection might lead to some temporary withdrawal or disappointment, but it doesn't usually cause long-term changes in behaviour or social interactions. And finally, the underlying mechanisms of RSD. RSD is often linked to neurological differences, such as those associated with ADHD, autism, or CPTSD. These differences can affect emotional regulation, sensitivity to social cues, and processing of rejection. The universal discomfort. The typical discomfort of rejection is a normal human emotion related to our need for connection and belonging. It's not usually associated with underlying neurological conditions. So ultimately, there is a connection between rejection-sensitive dysphoria and neurodiversity. And it has a lot to do with emotional dysregulation, which is essentially not being able to control or regulate your own emotions, which is commonly experienced in neurodivergent people. And so RSD is a common symptom of people with ADHD or other neurodivergent conditions. I personally have ADHD and CPTSD, which is complex PTSD. And so therefore I've personally struggled with RSD. I'd only just recognised it in the last few years, so I've done a bit of a deep dive naturally, as you do. And I came across a psychiatrist. His name is Dr. William Dodson. He wrote an article on Attitude magazine in regards to RSD and how the emotional dysregulation side of ADHD is the reason why RSD is so common in folk with ADHD. Dr. William Dodson proposes that RSD arises from a combination of factors related to ADHD. And these factors include interest-based nervous system, delayed emotional processing, rejection as a threat, and past experiences. Dr. Dodson describes the ADHD nervous system as interest-based, meaning it's highly sensitive to things that are personally relevant and meaningful. So this can make rejection feel especially threatening because it disrupts the sense of connection and belonging that people with ADHD crave. Dr. Dodson suggests that people with ADHD may experience a delay in becoming aware of their emotions. So this means they may not have time to recognize the emotional buildup until it's already reached an intense level, making it harder to regulate and cope with. Rejection as a threat, which was mentioned earlier in the video, so the brain of someone with ADHD may perceive rejection as a major threat, triggering a fight or flight response. This can lead to those intense RSD reactions like anger, panic, or withdrawal. And finally, past experiences. Like many experts, Dr. Dodson acknowledges the role of past experiences in shaping RSD. So if someone with ADHD has a history of criticism, rejection, or trauma, their brain might become even more sensitive to perceived threats of disapproval. And speaking, from lived experience, I would say that the hyperactive part of ADHD is far less disruptive than the emotional side, which includes emotional dysregulation. And so what can we do to manage RSD? What can we do to help navigate through this? And there isn't a lot of research on the topic, unfortunately, as of yet, but it's getting looked into. It's increasing in popularity over the last few years. But the good thing I found is actually just knowing about rejection-sensitive dysphoria really helps navigate and manage it when it does occur. Feeling empowered starts with understanding. Learn about RSD, and you'll gain the knowledge to take control of your rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Here are some tips I've learned that will hopefully help you to navigate your RSD. Increase your self-awareness. Pay attention to your triggers and early signs of RSD. Notice the situations, people, or types of feedback that tend to evoke those intense emotional reactions. Challenge negative thoughts. When you feel that surge of RSD, pause and challenge the negative thoughts that are flooding your mind. Are you catastrophizing or assuming the worst? Are you personalizing feedback that might be neutral or even constructive? Develop coping mechanisms. Equip yourself with tools to manage those intense emotions in the moment. Deep breathing exercises, mindfulness practices, and grounding techniques can help you regulate your nervous system and regain a sense of calm. What really helps me and what I have in my little toolbox is deep breathing exercises. I don't always do it, but even though I know it helps me, it's there, and it's sometimes just a comfort knowing there are strategies out there. Build self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a friend. Remember that everyone makes mistakes, and rejection is a normal part of life. Practice self-compassionate self-talk and focus on your strengths and accomplishments. And seek professional support. A therapist that specializes in ADHD or RSD can provide personalized guidance and support. They can help you understand your triggers, develop coping mechanisms, and work through any underlying trauma or self-esteem issues. And to everybody else, here's some tips to help support those with RSD. Educate yourself. Learn about RSD and how it affects people with ADHD and other conditions. Understanding the intense emotional experience of RSD can help you respond with empathy and support. Choose your words carefully. Be mindful of your language and tone, especially when giving feedback or expressing criticism. Focus on specific behaviors or situations rather than making generalizations or personal attacks. Offer support and reassurance. If someone you know is experiencing RSD, offer your support and reassurance. Let them know that you understand their struggles and that you're there for them. Avoid dismissing or minimizing. Don't dismiss their feelings or tell them to just get over it. RSD is real and a valid experience, and minimizing it can be hurtful and invalidating. Create a safe environment. Foster an environment of acceptance and understanding. Make it clear that mistakes are okay and that everyone is valued for who they are, regardless of their imperfections. Now, I don't have much more information to give to you at the moment, but I have included some links below to hopefully help you either navigate your own RSD or help someone you know with RSD, or if you're just curious, check out some of the links. I found them really useful. And if you suffer from rejection-sensitive dysphoria, please know that you're not alone. There are a lot of people that go through the same thing, and it's very nuanced in how managing it is going to be effective, but it will get better. I truly believe that. And if we work together, individuals with RSD and those around them, we can create a more supportive and understanding environment where everyone can thrive. I'm Natasha Fernandez. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope you find it useful. Take care.